Alcalá is hosting and organized in collaboration with the other partner universities in the European University for Global Health, EUGLOH, European University Alliance for Global Health. Today, following this combination both of sessions on training and education for you as PhD candidates and future researchers, with the possibility of presenting, in your case, the results and the actual work of your research. Today, we will begin again with some fields that we believe are going to be of the utmost importance in the day-to-day work that you are doing currently and in the future as researchers. To that end, we have the privilege and honor to have two colleagues from the Universidad de Porto. They are well known here, and they have, next to their academic careers, they have focused part of their professional work on precisely how to define, how to develop effective, clear training activities for developing research skills for people like you. First, we will have Professor João Pedro Pêgo, who is assistant professor at the University of Porto in the Polytechnic School. I always have a problem with the name of the school. Facultad de Engineer. In any country, we call engineers in a different way, but they are truly engineers always. He has been specialized in his own field on hydraulics, and he he read first in Porto at the University of Porto, his first degree in engineering, and he moved to Germany, to Erlangen, if I'm not wrong, to get his PhD. Next to him, and the second presentation would be Manuel Firmino da Silva, Torres, who came from a different field of education, psychology this time, and has developed most of his academic and research career at the University of Porto, both in different faculties, currently actually in the Faculty of Engineering of that university. Next to that, he has developed an important activity on the, I would call, in terms of service to society, with outside the walls of the universities in consultancy and so on and so forth. And on one important thing that, on one important topic that is one of the reasons why we are here, and it's about higher education, including the education of PhD candidates. Both have in common not only the university they belong to, but they have participated in European projects where the University of Alcalá have been involved also, and some other universities of the network EUGLOH. I'm going to mention just one, called Doctoral for Europe. Doctoral for Europe is a Horizon Europe funded project that had at its core to develop what I mentioned, to develop trainings in line with the European Framework for Research Skills, certified accordingly for you, for PhD students, to develop, next to the huge work that you are doing in your individual topics for your dissertations, to develop a number of other skills that all we think that are transversal and essential for your professional development within and without academia once you finish in very short time, I'm sure of you, your PhDs. So we today they are going to be focused on something that cripple any PhD candidate, time management. Yesterday we were talking about teamwork. Today we will have this other element in mind. So, as time management is so important, I will stop talking now, that you know that I can talk for hours, and then we'll give the floor to João Pedro Pêgo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'll try to walk because it's always a bit harder to stay, and it's not very flexible. And I'm going to, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. and I'm thankful that you are here also listening to us. I'm going to show you our experience at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Porto on doctoral education, and then Professor Firmino will focus on a specific topic on time management, which is one of the transversal skills courses that he lectures for a long time for our doctoral candidates. Sorry, next. So this is our campus, the campus of Faculty of Engineering. In this picture, although it's not easily or not immediately recognizable, there are 7 faculties of the University of Porto, and about in a radius of about 10-15 minutes walk, you have 50,000 people working on science. So we call this Porto Hub, Innovation Hub. Our faculty is these buildings you see here, and it was actually, it's a bit compact, so we would like to have a broader place to work, but we have some separated area for teaching, other for management, and here you have the big labs, and here you have 2 research institutes, which are interface institutes for bridging the gap or between the academia and the industry. So these are always co-participations between the university and the stakeholders of the region. And moreover, you see here, for example, so we are close to the Faculty of Sports, Faculty of Medicine, Faculty of Law. Somewhere here in the background, you see the Faculty of Dental Medicine, Psychology and Educational Science. And also here, 2 important things. We have this building, and there is another one near here. There are the Porto Innovation Hub. So these are spin-offs and to brood the next companies of the university. So most of our campus, although a lot of our work is on teaching undergraduates and postgraduates, we have more and more research. Researchers are the soul of the success of the university. So in terms of big numbers, our faculty is about a quarter of the university, and we have about 600 faculty members, 300 employed researchers, and 260 technical staff. About 8,000 students working on credit programs and 1,500 in extracurricular. We also have largely master and bachelor students, but we also have about 2,000 PhD candidates. Most of our students get a job either before completing the degree or within the next year. We are also very strong in incoming and outgoing mobility, and also more and more strong on technology transfer. In terms of big numbers, we have about currently 14 programs. We were, let's say, by pressure from the EU, we had to split our integrated masters into bachelor and master. So we have about 14 programs in the bachelor level with 3 years duration, and next we have 28 programs with master programs with 2 years durations. So we have more because we have so-called the continuity program. So civil engineering in the bachelor goes to civil engineering in the master, but we also have specialty masters. So if you want to be very specific on a certain thematic. This is an evolving landscape because as everything, we are always very positive on when we open a new program, and then a couple of years later, we realized that we have not as many students as we'd like. So this is an evolving nature, it's not static, and it's coming from the current developments in society. Then we have 24 PhD programs. Ideally, a PhD candidate should graduate in 3 years. Most will graduate in 4 years. And we have, actually this number is a bit lower. We have more than this, and they are reaching we are, let's say, getting new ones every year. In terms of what we are providing in these programs, so we have in the bachelor level, I'm just highlighting here what is special. Of course, we have core courses on physics, math, we are engineering, so everybody needs to know a little bit of strength material, everybody needs to know a bit about math and physics, but then informatics, do a lot of computer, chemicals, do a lot of chemical labs, and so on and so forth. But everybody makes an introductory course, an onboarding course, which is led by Firmino, or it was work of Firmino, where it's what we call the soft landing. So where students learn about the university, learn about the faculty, where is the copy printer, how do you make a presentation, how do you make a literature review, and so on. So for very early students, also a set of 3 courses on transferable skills, courses on mathematics, physics, and programming, and then in the final year, the last 3rd year, we have a capstone project where they spend, ideally they would spend a 4-week period in a company or in a lab, working and helping and getting acquainted with the, let's say, the real life. I always say the real life, whatever that means, because our life is also life, right? It's real. At the master level, we have a lot of curricular components. There you have more speciality. Also, transferable skills are included in the program of the master program. Besides these core and transversal skills, we also incentivize our students at all levels to do beyond their academic path. So do something extra about your life and get involved not only with student associations, students' music groups, theater, for example, but also we have for them a challenge-based learning through students' competitions. We have mobility opportunities, we have peer support groups, and also we have a lot of work done on career preparedness. So we want them to meet companies already in the faculty, companies also start looking at them, and create opportunities for students to engage with, let's say, professional life faster and earlier than at the end of the course, obviously, at the end of the program. For PhD candidates, which is the most relevant point here, we have 24 programs on STEM. Not all of them are just basic engineer. We are also working on, one of them is physics engineering, which is engineering, but a lot with strong of science. We also communication programs about communication and science dissemination, and this is done a lot with the Faculty of Humanities. So we are not just pure number crunching people. There is a lot more to that. Obviously, for PhD candidates, they have to do their research. That's their main core. That's obviously they have a major actor in their life, which is their supervisor, and obviously they need to be aligned with each other. But we also provide them opportunities for mobility, for transferable skills, and I'm going to come to that more detailed. We organize a doctoral congress every 2 years where all the engineering candidates of our faculty, the PhD candidates of our faculty, can present a first paper if they are just early and they don't know what it's like to be in a major congress. So we are talking about 600 people here. But not only that, they can also help organize a big congress. And that's an opportunity not everybody has. And what is to organize a congress where you have 18 different symposia? How do you communicate? But you also have common sessions for everybody. So this is all obviously a bit time consuming, but also extremely helpful and guides them in academic career. We have at Porto, we are I think in the 4th edition of the 3-minute thesis. So for those, sometimes this is also called the elevator pitch. That is, if you meet your boss in the elevator, that's the time you have to convince your boss that your work is the one he should be promoting next, right? So the 3-minute speech is exactly the same. It's a competition. This is actually a worldwide competition where the PhD candidates present their theses in a very concise way, in a very appealing way. It's sometimes, as a researchers, we have a very bad handicap is we want to be very precise. We don't want to fail, and then we don't want to say anything wrong. It needs scientifically proven. Very often that's completely nonsense for the listener because he or she just wants to know what do I get from you? What do I can use with your work that helps my life as well, right? And you need, as researchers, we need to break this bad habit of being extremely precise, but not being able to convey the message. And that's what 3-minute pitches helps us to do. Recently, we had the winter school at our faculty on personal effectiveness with Professor Firmino. There he is in the middle, and here is the team that worked there. And this was done on the basis of the Doc Talent for You project that has been mentioned before, and that I will talk a bit more later in the slides. So, let's talk a bit more in detail about doctoral education at PhilP, our Faculty of Engineering. By the way, I didn't introduce myself as background. I'm a civil engineering. I have no background of the science education. Working with me is Ana Freitas, who is co-author of this presentation, and she has a very strong background on educational science. She's completely now a PhD on doctoral education precisely, and so part of what you see is her work. So this is a picture of our central lawn in our faculty. I'm going to tell us a small story about this lawn. This lawn, actually this picture is extremely old, and that's why it's so interesting. Is you see there is no trees here, right? And because this is a central lawn, nobody would walk. I think it was because people are ashamed to be in the center of the attention somehow. This was like 15 years ago, and then there was a dean that said, okay, there is no warning saying don't step on the grass, but people were not there. And so he decided to plant some trees. So if you go now there are big trees here in the middle with banks, and still people take some difficulty to go there. I mean, students, when they're taking a coffee, sometimes go there, but it's a funny thing that nobody provides to go there, but people still respectively, very holy, I don't know why, but it's very interesting about that. So human psychology is actually rather challenging sometimes. So, traditionally, a PhD, if you think about the origins of the university, is about developing a thesis that you're going to defend it for the rest of your life with your whole soul. And this was the soul of yourself as an academic, very often as a cleric, a religious person, right? But these were the old days. Alcalá is an old university. I'm pretty sure a lot of people fit in this description. But then came the Industrial Revolution, and PhD became as a means to train people to solve problems, right? And so people were addressing real world, again, whatever that is, problems, and trying to find contributions, not only for the intellect, not only for the pure satisfaction of the knowledge, but to solve everyday problems, to have a contribution to the society, an impact to the society. Right? That was the 19th century and the early 20th century. And then it became also a path for an academic career. You need to have a PhD to be in an academic career. And more, we are leaving this model and becoming people solving individual problems. So there are more and more career paths. If you are a PhD, you can go to the academia, but you might go to the industry, or you go to a research lab. And each one of these careers has their own path, and they are valuable, okay? You might prefer one or the other one. I know a lot of people did their PhD, say, I don't want to become a professor. I'd like to do research my whole life. And that's fine. If they are happy like that, that's fine. And some people, I've seen people finish their PhD, went to the industry, spent 10 years there, 15 years, and then returned to academia. That's fine. And I've done people who did their PhD, did research, did teaching, and then they went to the industry, and that's fine. All of these paths have different, let's say, main goals, but there are things in common, okay? And what we're going to teach you about is what is common. So what is those skills that is applicable to every context of work? Where you need to have these skills if you want to interact with the remaining people more usefully and more efficiently for them and for yourself, okay? So, in the industry, very often people, so first of all, not the amount of candidates we have is PhD. They can't all follow an academic career. There is not enough place for all. There are other opportunities and more. Sometimes the non-academic job looks at them and says, okay, I have a PhD graduate, fantastic person, works a lot. I'm not exactly sure how to use him or her, okay? So I think that's part of our self-difficulty. Like I said, sometimes we are too precise and less concise on what are we doing and how what we are doing is valuable for the place we are working. And look, this is not just in the industry. Half of the people in the academia also don't know how to convey their message, okay? At least half, probably more. So one basis of what we are doing is the recently published research comp. So the research comp is a competence framework that sets 6 areas of skills and competencies that, let's say, a researcher should have. Okay, a researcher obviously should be doing research. That's easy, right? But he or she should be also managing research tool or working with others. Self-management, making an impact, managing research, obviously cognitive abilities. We often just think about a researcher of these cognitive abilities and the doing research, but there is a lot of things that needs to be done. And all of these skills should be aware of, we should be aware of, and we can't all of us be the perfect researcher that knows all of these skills like a professional. But we shouldn't neglect them. Okay? So we might be better at abstract and critical thinking, but we also should know how to make an impact, how to publish, how to communicate to the broad public. And we also obviously, sometimes it's not easy, but we need to work in teams. That's actually the major skill that companies expect from people, is that you should be able to adapt and to work with a team. Even if you don't like the team, you should find a way to contribute to the team and getting contributions from the team to your work. Because working in team is not only giving, is only also how to get from the others what you need. And that's the path we have to thread. So we have been working on so our teaching and learning lab that I'm representing here has been working in several projects. Some of them are still ongoing. 3 of them directly for enhanced programs, doctoral programs. That was done some years ago, not by me, but by an freitas. The Doc Talent for You project on transforming Europe through doctoral talent skills recognition. So here we are creating transferable skills, those skills of communication, those skills of personal effectiveness for PhD candidates. And we are also developing a system to recognize them for future employers. And then deep inventory on training deep tech talents and supporting deep tech academic spin-offs and startups. So this is bringing AI to the doctoral level. I'm going to give you I'm not leading this project, so at FEUP I'm leading this project, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So overall, the picture of what we have, of the doctoral program, first of all, to highlight the University of Alcalá is partner of it. Also the University of Tromsø, where it is, I think is this one, is a part of it. So since we are here in an EUGLOH meeting, these 2 plus Porto are members of the EUGLOH, so it's half of the team is already in EUGLOH, which help us a lot. There are a lot of synergies because of that. And the 3 main packages are the 4 main packages. So once we made it as a monitoring tool to define the skills of the future. 3 courses of transversal skills was implemented here. A system of digital credits, credentials to award them was developed here. And here a career development center, which is centers to help to guide candidates in their PhD candidates in their career academic path. At FEUP, at our faculty, We have developed a set of short courses, transferable skills, just for PhD candidates. This is a work since the last 10 years. These are intensive training with about 40 hours of work, about 12 to 14 hours of in-person teaching, based on evidence and of competence development for assessment. These courses are all credits, they all produce ECTS credits, and they aim to enhance the personal performance of PhD candidates, promote their quality, resilience, and timely completion of the doctoral journey, okay? And also expand the range of options for diversity of doctoral careers. That is, we are not just training academics, we are training people, high value, highly trained people who can work in different environments, right? And they have to find their path, which is the place they should fit in the future. So this is the list of courses we have. We have Professor Firmino does this leadership and performance management. There's also this time management, personal organization. He will be speaking later. I'm doing, for example, this LaTeX on scientific rating software. One of the most looked for is this pedagogical training of teach in higher education. Many PhD candidates do want to follow the academic path, and having a pedagogical training is a luxury, something most of the let's say most of the professors at university never had. It is one of the stupid things about academia is most of our knowledge is self-taught, and sometimes it's good, not always. We had 9 years of data collection with about 2,000 participants, and what do they tell us? First of all, we have an occupation rate of the courses of about 82%. It's not ideally, obviously we would not have some dropout, but actually quite large number. These are extracurricular courses, they don't have to make them. We have a satisfaction rate of 90%, and the benefits they recognize is their enhanced skills, effectiveness, and their resilience, motivation, and confidence increase. This is the top 3. What we have made a survey this year, what they feel they should address, we should address more, and the skills they still feel that are not exactly being addressed and could have more attention is on science communication, that makes making an impact on research comp, teamwork and networking, working with others on research comp, and design thinking on the cognitivity abilities. So apart from these, we are more or less covering everything on research comp. Finally, talking about the Doctoral Congress on Engineering. So this Congress works every 2 years. Like I said, it's a big Congress. This is one of the common sessions in our 400 people auditorium. We have award ceremony for posters, for communications. Anyone can make an oral presentation. So the oral presentations are in symposia, so small sessions. There are, I think, 13 parallel sessions. There are 18 symposium, but not all of them attended 2 days. We have poster presentation. We also have workshops. For example, they can meet the big research labs. They can also talk with the industry. So there is always an industry session. And they can talk, for example, with the support services, the psychological support services. And so this is a way for them to participate in our faculty's life. Besides that, more recently, the university launched the UP Doctoral Careers page. So this is a talent management center that will be a first contact point to the whole university. So any PhD candidate of the university to come here and look, what are the services available to me? Like that Porto 3-minute thesis. Last week there was a pitching event. We had 25 companies coming to talk with our PhD candidates. They were 15 doing their pitch. They were presenting their PhD theme and their work to companies, right? And this was also very successful. Actually, we were so successful with companies that we don't want to have too many times where we have more companies than the PhD candidates. We have 2,000 PhD candidates in university. We would like to have more PhD candidates coming, so spread the word that this works. And companies do need people with this high level of skills. And just to come to the long end, just highlight the Winter School Enhancing Communication Negotiation of PhD candidates done in Limerick. We brought there a couple of PhD candidates. We collaborate on the BIP on circular economy, same thing on the University of Valladolid BIP on doctoral education, and again the Winter School Personal Effectiveness that was done during the Doctoral for You project. Another topic, just to finish, and this is a trend for the future. Some of you might know what it is. So there is a big buzz that is micro-credentials. The idea is that in the future, we're going to have a base training, but then we're going to make short bursts of learning, so-called micro-credentials. So think about 40 hours of work, where in the end you get some credits. And this will, what they say, the ideal of the European Union is that you have this small amount, they call the small volume of learning. They don't define what small is for our difficulties. But this will be, it says two things that are important. For this will be owned by the learner and shared and portable. What does it mean? You're going to get a digital credential that says, there is a certified paper with a digital signature that says, okay, you have completed personal effectiveness course, all right? And then you have a place, you can put that online in your CV or in your LinkedIn or whatever, and if clicking there, you can see what skills you have learned, what is the volume of learning you have done, who did that, okay? And that's the, let's say, at least the hopeful future. And another thing that is they can use standalone or combine. And here is where the universities are still struggling a lot with the concept. That is, being combined means, okay, if I staple 30 credits of micro-credentials, I can go to the university and say, please, now spare me you another semester in the faculty, all right? So this is a trend. It's been growing for the last 10 years. Mainly in the Anglo-Saxon world, but also here in Germany, France. And although we are not very highlighted there, this is also growing. A micro-credential is basically a certified PDF that shows what activities we have done, what achievements were obtained, what were the learning outcomes, if it gives an entitlement or not, and an assessment. And everything is guaranteed to be original by this electronic seal. I'm going to show you here, I'm going to jump in. So okay, you need to create a template for the credential. We are using the European digital credentials. You need to create a credential with the metadata, and then you join the metadata of recipient, and then once it's sealed, it becomes the European digital credential. You can show an example of each you see here. We have issued 10 already. We are about to issue like 20 more in the next few days. And this, as a QR code, you can use to show what you have done on the internet. And from my side, that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm now open for any questions you have about this subject, and then Professor Firmino will continue. If not, I have a question.
Yeah, I can. I feel like in the... I'm going to be harsh with my own uni now, so please, nobody take it into account or take it personally. So I feel like at the University of Alcalá, there is like a wide range of PhD programs so the range is on how well or how students are guided through their PhDs. Mm-hmm. So there are like PhD programs that do not guide us at all. Okay. And mine is one of them, unfortunately. And there are others that organize a lot of activities, the first year welcome sessions, then we have yearly plans, like yearly yearly conferences for students to interact among them in their own PhD programs. So my question is, what can we do as students to promote improvements in our own PhD programs? Mm-hmm. further than writing emails to our coordinators and directly asking these resources for us?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. What you are describing are two different realities, and both of them are right. The question is, and if you go to the basics of a PhD, a PhD candidate should be able to be autonomous and drive their own, let's say, research and have a research plan, and they have an advisor, but they should go to the advisor proactively and push things on the advisor, say, what do you think about this idea? The question nowadays is, we have obviously in the 20th century. So this, what I'm describing is more or less what is the traditional PhD till the middle 20th century. And then obviously, especially after the Second World War, you've seen many countries in Europe and in the US to develop a mass education, a higher education, right? And what happened in the bachelor and in the master is happening nowadays in PhD. You are producing PhDs in a bigger quantity, which is, to be honest, not a bad problem. It's actually a good problem, because actually people with a PhD, they have to develop this autonomy, right? The question is very often that supervisors or professors are always overburdened with work. Sometimes they are eager and greedy and have too many things to do at the same time, not only professionally, but I also have too many PhD candidates, and it's hard to give attention to everybody. So I think you are more or less suffering from that. What you can do, so for example, what you have described, so there are programs that have everything prepared and seminars and so on and sessions and so on. And in our faculty, for example, we are also going to more standardized PhD programs. I have to say, I understand this is a need, and if you want to be efficient and if you don't want to have people to drop out, obviously this is relevant. But I'm also a bit sad that we go for a standardization situation, because if there is anything that is rich about the PhD, is that you are an individual that can create your own path. So I think both worlds have advantages, but both worlds have disadvantages. If I were you as a PhD too, first of all, it depends very much on the work, on the research group you are. If the research group is you and you're a professor, it's not a very big group. I've worked in places where I did my PhD in a place, we were 90, so it was big, and every Friday there was a seminar there, and it was always an invited person. And no matter what was the subject, everybody had to come. It's a question of mentality. It has a question of culture. And you would go just because everybody goes. It's like, they've been doing that for the last 100 years. You just get in, you are not a German, you just get in and just fit into it, right? And this is also very cultural. I don't have the same thing in our faculty, for example. And if you organize people coming from Spain to talk to us, very often you have 5 people in the room, and that's sad. Okay, so, but you want to be proactive, organize your own, talk with your colleagues you are working with, because this is where ideas grow, is where we talk. And sometimes that's the main issue. That's why what I mentioned, that we have big numbers of programs, that also is a main problem. Because everybody wants to have their PhD of their specialty. I'm talking about professors. Oh, I want to make a PhD where I'm the king, all right? But if you have too many diversity, you also lose scale to do these common things on a seminar, on a PhD on bioengineering, for example, okay? And you need that, you need to have a certain scale to make sure that it's efficient to everybody. So you need to have relatively large groups, you need to have coherence, and I don't think having activities driven by students or candidates, PhD candidates, is anything bad. It's actually more valuable. If you have a group of commonality with other PhD candidates, and you say, look, we are 3 or 4, and we can organize, just bring people. You will be surprised that people will answer to your request positively. You will probably start with asking people from university to talk, but you might consider bringing someone from Germany or from France or from Portugal or Porto. And you just have to be really daring and go into your professors or the program there and say, look, I have this specialist. He's top leader in the world of this. And I want to come here, and you need to pay it, because I'm not going to pay from my pocket. Okay? And obviously, everything done negotiating, politely, diplomatically. You don't need to start putting the fist on your hand, but you can bring the ideas. Because if several of you do that, there will be a pressure on administration. Okay? People are overwhelmed in the academic world. I don't do more stuff because I'm actually overwhelmed. And actually, very often, I have the biggest problem that is not saying no. I always try to say to everybody, and when I realize I'm spread thin with too many stuff to do, and you should tell your professors and that they have a responsibility for you. So I support you, and if you feel that I'm contributing to your work, I can come here and talk, or I can ask somebody. It's really, but you can take the lead, the initiative. Okay? Not just send emails, organize stuff. Shame them. If you do something good, they will envy you. They will want to get a piece. I'm saying this by my experience.
Thank you. I think that your stats are amazing, actually, and I'm sure that you're doing an amazing job. I'm a last year PhD student, and I'm not working in academics, and at least for now, I don't even want to. But I'm always a bit conflicted about whether I should put that on my CV, that I'm doing my PhD, I'm finishing it, I'm going to acquire my PhD. And since you have all of these programs, I'm interested in what are some universal experiences that we as researchers could highlight. For example, I think that all of us here have above average research skills or analytical skills. We can work with big data sets. But how could we transition from academics, from PhD programs into different career paths?
Well, first of all, I followed an academic path, so I don't have your experience. But I can talk to you about a friend of mine. And first of all, I think compared today with my time 25 years ago, there is so much more information. Okay, I didn't know how to do a research review, and nobody taught me, to be very honest. Nowadays, there are Prisma methodologies and things. People did invest a lot of time on it. So most of what we do nowadays to be a good researcher is studied and is documented, and it's there. Sometimes not user-friendly, but it's there, right? In terms of skills, for example, you are talking, I want to highlight my research skills. If you want to go work in a company, one of the major complaints, it might be unfair, and we think it is unfair, companies have about PhD candidates, is they don't know how to position themselves on the position of saying, how can I contribute to the business? How can I make the business make money, right? And you have other skills more than research skills. You have management skills. You have team working skills. Unless you were stuck on a computer for 5 years, you probably have to work with people. You have to deal with people. That's team working, all right? You could also enhance your communication skills. Many people, not only in the academic world, everywhere, don't know how to speak in public, don't know how to convey a message. And many professors don't know how to convey a message. The difficulty is they have no choice. They have to do it. Good or bad, that's their job, right? I think I can communicate well, but I've never had any training. Some people are more empathic or not. For example, one of the skills that is nowadays more requested is empathy. How to position yourself on the place of the other one. Because if you know what the other person is feeling and thinking, if you can understand what is their point of view, and if you tune your message that what you say is what you want to say, but in a way that the other person will also accept it as a value for themselves, you are on the path for success. Professor Firmino can correct me if I'm saying any big rubbish, but that's one of the major issues. Think about outside the research, okay? I'm going to tell you one personal story I know. Is a dear friend of mine, and she did a PhD in chemical engineering, and then she made a postdoc, and her career was not jumping. She was not producing enough PhD papers. Probably she was not a pure academic, right? So her boyfriend was living in the UK, and she said, okay, I'm going to meet you. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to meet you. I'm going to do some training. She did training on biostatistics, R, all right? And then she started working on let's say the Pharmacy and Medicine Institute of the UK, okay? And they say, okay, that is a person of value. And then she got promoted. Then she was leading a service there, all right? And then came Brexit, which for them was really hard because they felt, okay, people don't like us here somehow. And then she got a position in AstraZeneca in Sweden, all right? And she worked there for 3 years. And unfortunately, AstraZeneca had a policy, which is the difficulty about, let's say, companies, is that sometimes they open a business and they close it in a short span of time, okay? So AstraZeneca closed, and it was her boyfriend that been living his whole life out of Portugal. He's Portuguese, and I say, okay, it's time to go back home. And now they return back home, okay? And she's now back to a research institution. And so in each step, see, look, what is the next skill that I need to follow my path, okay? So you need to be proactively looking at that. She making trainings, and working with others is very often the key skill. I hope I answered your question, not deviating too much, okay? May I ask a short question? Because this is very important for us at the moment for the project. Does anybody know or use these micro-credentials, digital credentials? You do? Or we have to talk? So, yes, so I don't want to take too much time because Professor Firmino also has his time, and then we have a few more minutes at the end. Thank you very much. Quer estar de pé? Vai estar aí? Não, vou ficar.
Okay. Hello. Good morning to you all. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here with you. And especially in this very beautiful university, that you have, and congratulations, because it's really wonderful. Well, I'm here to talk about time management. As my colleague, Professor João Pedro says, as a psychologist with a PhD in educational science, especially in higher education, I work a lot of skills, namely negotiation, leadership, communication, presentation techniques, personal effectiveness, and so on. Well, time management for me is a macro skill, okay? And perhaps is one of the most important skills to assure your own success, not only professional, but also personal in your lives. Well, but honestly, I must start saying that time cannot be managed. It's a fallacy. So let's go home. No. Wait, we can manage ourselves regarding time. So we have to know ourselves better, and then we have to manage the time that we live. So let's start with the professional planning, because I always think that you are going to start a career, and that is really very important. The PhD is not the end of something, but rather the beginning of a new life, okay? So you have to think immediately on career path and what are you going to build as your own way to professional activities, okay? So here I would like to say that be sure to know how to use your time. Don't depend on memory. It is tricky. So planning is thinking about the future systematically, and then we have three main variables. First, you have to give a certain time to each task. Then you have to set deadlines. And of course, you have to have self-discipline to that. And third, and perhaps the most important thing, is measure the time effectively used. Well, I'm going to insist on this all my presentation, okay? Because you have to know your own personality. And then you have to manage yourself according to the pressures and to the commitments that you have assumed. So also we have to think here that, of course, that we have a lot of different influences, cultural, technological, and so on. For instance, do you know that the word work and travail in French comes from trepalium, meaning in Latin. Do you know what is the meaning of trepalium? It's instrument of torture, okay, and pain. So when you say to somebody, where are you going? Well, I'm going to work. You see, there is something that is not pleasant. Well, this is the first attitude. You have to have passion for your PhD. And not leaving it as a sacrifice, okay? So, about the professional planning, let's see these three variables very quickly. Give a certain time, because if you don't have a task without a given time is a danger to prolong than necessary, especially in Portugal. I don't know if in Spain is a problem also, but if we don't have deadlines in Portugal, we keep going. Then set deadlines. They stimulate, of course, when they are realistic. And here we have to think a little bit about our supervisors, okay? Sometimes they are not very realistic, and you have to be assertive, and you have to say, no, I cannot publish more articles this year because I'm full of work until here, okay? You have to have a communication in both ways. You receive a lot of information from the communication of your supervisor, but you are building something unique, okay? You own your own research, and you must manage your own activity and your own time, of course. So, at a certain time, at the third point, again, measure the time effectively used. Why? Because I mentioned before that we have personality issues. That means that, I'm going to talk about that a little bit deeply, but it's important to start with the idea that we are all different, okay? Personality is that. So there are people that are very professionalist, so they waste a lot of time doing things that is not honestly very necessary. There are others that spare a lot of time. So you have to, first of all, know yourself better. So the professional planning, here I will say that there is an idea, very important, that is less and better, okay? I don't mean less work. I mean less effort, less tired, and a better output, a better performance. And that is a secret that you can have in your own activity while you are knowing yourself better and better, okay? So, in professional planning, we have to think here and now, because the past has already gone and the future is not yet come. So the tactical unity of the time management is the day, okay? Here and now. The psychology recommends that here and now a lot of time. So the plans may vary regarding the time horizon that they behold and the respective precision. To any given time period, there is always limits to the possible fulfilling to the capacity to plan. Winston Churchill used to say this: it is wise to look ahead, but it's foolish to look further ahead than what we can see. So focus more in the present and not so much in the future, okay? Well, but I'm going to speak a little bit about the different plans. So we have the short term that belongs with the attitude towards the present. I'm not very concerned with this because usually Portuguese and Spanish are very creative, okay? And we always manage in a rush things when we have problems. Sorry, let me just talk about something here. Just a step back, okay? What is the legitimacy of treating time management in science? Until now, we don't have it. Until now, it's the common sense that treats time management. Science is concentrated in different questions like how, who, when, why, but never when, the time. So the time is being treated by the common sense, but today we have not a new science, but a new subject of study that all the science trying to contribute now, meaning the chronosciences. And we have two very different set of things. One is Zeitgebers. Sorry for the German word, but it has no traduction yet. But more or less it means the synchronizers of our daily activity. And humans have also desynchronizers. They call it Zeitstorers. Well, do you know the major synchronizer of all our activity is the day, the late daylight. So, anytime that you are going through the night, forcing yourself a lot, and especially when you say something to yourself, I can't bear anymore, I can stand this, I'm going to sleep, I give up. That moment is the most important decision that you have made in time management. Because when we are going to sleep, our hippocampus is going to work during all night, consolidating all the learning that we have done in the past day and cleaning the space to learn new things in the next day. More than that, our brain will consolidate all the learnings and it's going to articulate with all the memories that we have already. That's why at 2, 3, 4 hours in the morning, we don't understand things. We feel that this is too much complicated, and in the next morning, after a good shower, a good breakfast, we look at that, oh my God, this is so simple. So you have to let you have to let your brain work by itself. It's always working 24 hours a day. And especially with the researchers, think a little bit on this. If you have concerns with complex problems, you can have very complex solutions also that fit to those complex problems, but to that you need to let your brain work. You have to let him work with the time he needs. Sometimes you ask your brain, I need a solution. For instance, I need a great hypothesis to my thesis. And you have to wait sometimes days, weeks, months. I remember that I made my PhD about higher education. I create a taxonomy that is new in all over the world, that is correlating all the teaching methods, all the ways of learning, and finally all the types of assessment. And I have that epiphany one time in a meeting with all my colleagues and professors and so on. I can't explain how. Suddenly it came the image of the taxonomy complete to my brain. I have reflected on that 1.5 years previously. And suddenly, without previous notice, puff, it came from me. I asked someone to give me a piece of paper, I designed it very quickly, and I have a PhD with double distinction, meaning there is a new model in the world, and that is a very good example of research in educational science, because I've made all my research with two kinds of data, qualitative data with content analysis and so on, and quantitative data with a lot of statistics. That is very unusual on educational sciences. So you have to have life after PhD or beyond PhD. You have to amuse yourself, you have to be with people, you have to be happy, you have to rest, and like that your brain works better and will give you better solutions, better ideas, better outcomes. Well, let's go again with the professional planning. Honestly, the problem is not neither the short term, neither the long term. Our problem, honestly, is the medium term. We are not used to do this, meaning we are not used to articulate daily and with the long term. Think a little bit with me. After the end of the year, we all feel a new motivation to be organized. And usually we have an inner speech that says, well, this year I'm going to be a complete different person. I'm going to do it all. Honestly, now is my time. This year I'm going to change everything in my life. And then 1 week, 2 weeks, honestly, sometimes we buy an agenda, okay, we start organizing everything, and 15 days, 30 days, everything comes back to the same. Why? Because we have a lot of habits, and time management is a very complex thing. You have to split it, you have to focus your attention in several variables, and then you have to manage them. Perhaps in a sequence, in a progressive sequence, not everything at the same time, okay? Otherwise, you don't have success, probably. About the career planning that my colleague, Professor João Pedro has told, is very important to think in our career, and here I recommend a lot of insert the career with inside our project life. So you have to think not only in your career, but also in your life project. And when you are going to think in your career, 3 main variables are important. First of all, your motivation, because you have to stick with that things a lot of time. So you have to be very motivated, first of all. Second, you have to have competence, skills. So there are 2 questions here. What do I want and what I can do? And then the 3 is the market. Which are the opportunities that I can embrace? Not now, but in 3, 4, 5 years, or even 10. So let me share with you my experience, okay? Very quickly. I believe when I was very young that I will do everything in my life. The sky was the limit. You see, do you know this picture symbolizes a little bit a toy for the children. Do you know? In the parking, when one children is down, the other is up, and then they swing, you know? So my vision of life, when I was 30, now I have 62, and I have a grandson with 10 years old that plays chess with me and so on. But I was down, you see, and I was looking at the sky, and I was thinking then, well, I'm going to do 3 PhDs, I'm going to build 6 enterprises, I'm going to do, I don't know. For me, I feel in that moment that I was a Superman, you see, full of energy, ambition, and plans. Suddenly, I have made 40 years old, and my position was changed. Suddenly, I was up, and I was looking at the ground. And my reflection was, well, I made the calculations, and I don't have even 20% of the time that I need to do all my projects. And I conclude, oh my God, these have an end, and I have a limit. In that moment, I become very sad. So don't wait for this frustration, okay? Start building right now your life project, and inside of it, remember, the career is something that is going to realize yourself, not only professionally, but also personally. So, goal setting. the choice, everybody knows, I suppose, I'm going more quickly on this. Everybody knows the characteristics of objectives, the SMART objectives. I give you here some more, okay? For instance, are some things that are really small but very important. For instance, they have to be positive. Otherwise, you don't feel yourself motivated. Let's think a little bit. You smoke, but you know that is not good. So you decide, I'm going to stop smoking. This is not a positive characteristic, you know. You think yourself, oh my God, I will never more be able to smoke a cigarette. Oh my God, this is very negative to a smoker. So how can we change this characteristic for this purpose, for this goal? For instance, I'm going to swim more 3, 4, or 5 swimming pools in the same time and with the same cardio breathing rhythmic. Or I'm going to run 1 more mile in the same time, maintaining my breath and my heart beating. So this is positive, okay? And this focuses our attention by something that we can acquire and not something that we are going to give up. Also, you can think in secondary goals like I'm going to spare money, I'm going to do something else, okay? So let's check goal setting. This is the 5 main steps that we must do when we are trying to manage very well our goals in the time management. I'm going to call your attention to the second point, the urgency and the importance. Well, these are the 2 main criteria for priorities. They are sufficient indicators to manage goals temporarily. Well, this can be inspired as in our matrix, but if you check, for instance, Steve R. Covey, he recommends the building of a matrix like this. I give you here some examples that what you can do with a matrix like this, okay? If you cross these 2 variables, you have 4 conditions. So you have things that are urgent and important, things that are not urgent but important, and things that are not important but urgent, and not important and not urgent, usually waste. So the problem is that in our society, we all think in urgent things. No, not everything is urgent. And it's very important to understand that. A lot of activity that you are going to do in your research is important. And you have to have a vision of long term, not the perspective of daily and immediately, okay? So, for instance, I call your attention for the not urgent and important things. After all the things related to your PhD, building interpersonal relationships. Later can be a very great help to have contacts at the professional dimension. Recognizing new opportunities, career and recreation, you see. It's very important that you are happy, that you have some joy, okay? And for instance, a lot of people don't think in the things that are urgent but not important. Can you think with me about the email? Well, the email is not important, but it's urgent every day. Try to don't check your email during 15 days. Oh my God, it can be terrible. Okay? So after you check your email, you can immediately send things to urgent and important. For instance, if you have an email of your supervisor that want to meet you urgently, you are not going to say, no, I don't want or I can't. You go. That is compulsory, okay? But you have a lot of things that are not urgent but important. For instance, I recommend strongly, and I work that with my students, organizing a program of all the activities about the PhD, right from the first year. So like that, you are not unstructured, and you cannot think, well, I have all the time in the world to do this. No, that's not true. You have to schedule the introduction, the objectives, your motivation, the bibliography, the state of the art, then the methodology, the results, the discussion, the conclusion. When are you going to do all of that? And it's very important, program everything right from the start. Then you can manage situations that are not previously think. So, well, goal setting, here you have a lot of advantages of effective priorities definitions. Well, I'm just calling your attention from the last one. Don't let in standby tasks that are a reference in your personal effectiveness evaluation. Be careful about your own image, okay? Don't appear completely out of shape, let's say. We have to be well in our head, but previously we have to be well in our bodies. Okay, we have to have a healthy image and not offering an image of sacrifice and too much effort. So take care of yourself and your working place. It's very important. Daily planning. Well, don't be a workaholic. There is life beyond PhD, and you need to know when to stop. About daily planning. Concerns effectively organizing the immediately available time. That's it today. A day is a natural time unit, as I told you before. So I propose you a method here that is called NERAC. It's come from the French colleagues, and you just have to dedicate 8 minutes per day to organize each day of your own activity, okay? And you have to think on these moments. First, note everything down. Like that, you don't need to depend on your short memory all the time during the day. Oh, now I must do this. Oh, now I must do that. No, let your brain work, okay? If you have all the things write down, it's very easy to check them. You don't have to make effort, okay? Second, estimate their duration. And there is here the problem of the personality. If you check McClellan, for instance, we all are or supra-realizators or makers or performers or infra-performers. That means that a lot of people have afraid to fail. So they establish from themselves a limit of performance that is under their possibilities. They try to prevent the failure. Others, perhaps like we, we all establish goals, yes, goals, thank you. Goals beyond what we can do all day. And that is a very common problem in PhD students, okay? We want to do more and more and more and more. And that is a problem, a really big problem, because if we start today with too much objectives, we are condemned to fail. And the frustration is not something that it's good to deal with. Third, we have to reserve the necessary time for fulfilling, for doing the tasks. And here the specialists recommends between 50 and 60% of the time that must be planned. If you plan 100% of the time, you are condemned to fail again. Why? Because we live on a social environment, plenty of unforeseen events, so we never know what can happen to us. Suddenly you receive a call that somebody in your family are ill or needs help. So you have to have some reserve of time. Otherwise you will say, no, I can't. In priority things, that cannot be an attitude. Fourth, we must arbitrate by priorities, as we saw previously, urgent and importance. And finally, again, control all the time the foreseen and the obtained. That is the only way you can know yourself better and progress in time management, okay? Each day you must check what have you done and what you have not done. And try to understand if you are a supra-realizator, okay? A supra-performance. And that means that you are exaggerating in the quantity of goals that you establish for yourself every day. So, you need always to have an instrument to do whatever you want. And in time management, it's very important to have a time classifier, okay? Well, I am from the paper generation, and I love the paper. I have this instrument for more than 30 years in my life, so I can come back to whatever the day it was, whatever the place, and I can tell you where I was, what have I done, and who have I worked with, without any effort, okay? So, if you are more digital, you have a lot of options, of course. This is only 5 examples, very common, and perhaps the best time management tools that you can have, and you can link with all your digital tools. Well, a time classifier is important because it's not enough to go to the river wanting to fish. You have to bring along a fishing rod. In all activities that humans do, we all need tools. So this is a very important tool. This is some characteristics that are important in a classifier, a time classifier. And summing up a little bit, because later I can give you the PDF of my presentation and you can go deeply on that, but it's a practical classification system, okay, that is very dynamic and allows you to check a lot of different informations and use the principle of time writing plan. For me, this is one of the most important things to have life after the work, okay? I need psychologically all days to relax, to have my second life, let's say. I just can do that when I finish to check everything by writing, when I close my time classifier. I feel myself free. Why? Because I have everything writing down. So I don't have to worry myself, and I feel myself, honestly, completely free. And gives you a complete set vision of how tasks are divided, times determined, important projects, and how you can react delicately to all unforeseens. Well, a time classifier, oh, sorry, I'm going back. Yes, that's it. So what I'm proposing with this, perhaps you need only 10% of rationalization, and perhaps you can achieve 15 to 40% more time, being able to save a whole hour a day thanks to the organization provided by time classifier. Well, this is a lot of time, you know, and time is money, so don't wait to go to progress on this. Also, I would like to refer here very quickly that we need to achieve an important balance between 2 dimensions. We have a macro dimension and we have a micro level of activity. And in your situation of researchers for a PhD, it's very important to understand in the micro vision, it's very important that you create a work plan for all your PhD, as I told before. Thesis production phases, schedule distribution, calendar with full planning, etc., etc., etc. Like that, you feel yourself organized, okay? And structured. Second, thinking on micro levels of activity, I recommend a lot, and I make my students do this, of course, a daily work plan with the NERAC method, especially focus on urgent and important things, combined in 4 conditions, using an organizing, and especially thinking on ABC analysis. A means very important tasks, B important, and C routine tasks, those that are not important, but consume a lot of time, okay? Email, paperwork, reports, and we have a lot of bureaucratic work, and you know that, okay? And finally, effectiveness curve and time wasters elimination. I'm going to show you just in some minutes very quickly how you can use it in your lives, okay? So this instrument, as I told you, is very important. Using the time classifier is the most essential tool for effective time management. And in the end of the day, please, just one word about this. Remember that we are not living alone. We belong to a social environment, as I told you, and you have family, you have friends, you have loved persons. So I know this because I do a lot of training in companies for during more than 30 years, and I observe something very funny. For instance, the commercials spend all day leading with clients and using their facial expressions in a positive way, smiling all the time, being very sympathetic, okay? And suddenly, when finish work and they arrive home, that's the moment when they express honestly what they feel. And a lot of times they are tired when they arrive home and they look at their families and they say, hello. So this is strange. They have passing all day making a very interesting effort to be positive and enthusiastic, and finally with the people that loves him more in all the world, hello. This is have no sense, you know. All the people that loves you don't have nothing to do with all your decisions, with all your commitments, with all your choices. So please use the 007 technique. Do you know 007? Everybody knows James Bond, okay? When he finish a mission, a very hard mission with plenty of fight and so on, you look ahead and what you see? The girl Bond. And what he's going to say? Oh my God, I'm very tired. No, he take off that wasty clothes and he show a very nice suit, you know, and he look at her and he put his best facial expression and he say, hello, my name is Bond, James Bond. So try to be positive with the people that are around your lives, okay? They are not doing your PhD. They don't deserve that negative consequence of all your effort. And sorry, I must finish. I'm going to be very quickly. Another thing is using the ABC analysis, okay? Not everything that we do is equally important. So the problem is also that theoretically the share of value of the activity should be 65% of A tasks, very important ones, B tasks, important, 20%, and 50% of C tasks, insignificant routine tasks. So the problem is that research shows that the effective use of time that we do is quite the contrary. So a lot of times you end your day and what do you feel? You feel yourself very tired, and when you think, honestly, what have I done of real good value? Very little. So this is a consequence when you don't manage effectively your time. So first of all, think in splitting the activities in these three categories. Then perhaps it's important that you understand that if you live and working in a day situation, not at night, usually we have this effectiveness curve. So what I recommend to a PhD researcher is more or less this. Try to put A activities right immediately in the morning. Okay? Don't go check emails, don't waste your time. Attack immediately, the most important thing. This is the eating frog philosophy, okay? Let's go straight ahead to the most important things that we have to do. And this is the best moment for all the day. Second, after lunch, and you lunch very well as Portuguese people, so after lunch, this is a curve, a negative curve, very well known. Usually people drink a coffee trying to escape that situation, but that is not recommended by healthy professionals, okay? If you drink a coffee after lunch, you are going to prolong that curve. So what I propose is today, please, try to replace the coffee after lunch for C activities. during 45 minutes. You don't need to be in your full capacity to check the emails, to make some copies, to make some phone calls, and so on. Okay? And also, you are going to be more relaxed after lunch to do those things. And when it comes another second curve of effectiveness, you can do B activities. For instance, A can be reading articles during all morning, taking notes about the literature review. Then C tasks can be some calls, emails, etc., and B, writing the thesis. All days, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's surprising, after some months, you check your thesis is growing. And that is very grateful. So at night, remember that our potential fall down, and in the morning we have a peak performance. I told you before, sometimes we think things are very complex, and in the morning we think another way. The value of concentration levels during 60 minutes average. So psychologists recommend after 1 hour or even 90 minutes, we should make a break. 10 minutes break, not 15. 15 comes the lazy situation, okay? 10 minutes. It's a regenerative pause, okay? And also, it's very important to know when you should stop. Take 10 minutes break to recover yourself. Try to stop thinking technique. Sometimes it's very difficult. Try to don't think during 10 minutes. Sometimes it's impossible. But you have to manage your brain with wisdom, okay? Not being a slave of your brain, all the time working and working and working. The brain has something that is called awareness, consciousness, that allows you to manage your own brain, your own thoughts and feelings, and of course your behavior and your activity, your action. So, time management, recapping, summing up, gaming time, principle of writing planning with daily plans, according to priorities, using a time organizer, and especially, don't forget, you have to have self-discipline, okay? Efficient management based on the principles set out here will have a noticeable effect on general vision, planning, and follow-up our activities, help control the pressure of daily life and stress by achieving a positive and optimistic vision of our existence. This strategy, yes, is astonishing simple, as I told you before. So, planning the day before, establish tasks in writing, then the psychological grounds, as I told you before, activating the subconscious. This works constantly when returning home or going to work and provides possible solutions. And you never know when they come to your brain. I recommend you, especially if something of that happens during the night, try to write down immediately a brief resume of your idea. Otherwise, in the morning, you can perhaps not remember it. Structure the complex workday. That will be more easy to understand and to visualize. Less distraction and procrastination. And to finish, don't forget, a very busy day should not be synonymous of stress. Quite the contrary, successfully solving a difficult task should produce satisfaction and even a feeling of calm. A lot of people say to me, I just like to work now with a lot of stress, you know. That is an error. Especially, we need pressures, of course, especially Spanish and Portuguese people perhaps, okay? But working with stress is already a negative situation. Stress, by definition, is when we cannot answer all the stimuli that we receive. So stress is a negative indicator, okay? So stress is not caused by tasks carried out, but by those that have not been controlled. We are controlled by what we don't control. Stress is a guilty conscience. So a time classifier initially requires persistent self-discipline, like all the good solutions, but is worthwhile. And thank you for that. I'd like to wish you more time and more success to your own PhD. And I hope that my presentation has been useful and enjoyable. And thank you for your attention. And finally, I'm ready for your questions, please. Thank you.
So I was listening to Professor Firmino, and then when he said the epiphany, so I had my own brief epiphany when I was there. I opened my computer, I look at this article that I'm trying to finish for the last year. Yes. And then I saw it and said, well, I'm ready for it, well, perhaps January. It's something that is happening constantly, and then, but thank you very much, Firmino, and thank you very much, João Pêgo, for these presentations. Before going to the coffee break, we may open...
I don't know if someone has a question. Yes, there is over there a question. Yes, very well.
Well, I can...
I'm going to hear you better in a second.
Is it on?
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, I just wanted to thank you. First, we'll forget that I was late to this lecture. That did not happen. And I want to thank you for the presentation because it really made me smile and it made my morning. Because I was coming in late, and worried that it's going to be like you're completely out of control, But actually, you said all of the important things that I have to remind myself a lot about having a second life and not being guilty all the time and things like that, because I developed, the young say, a toxic trait. So sometimes in just random things, when I get like an email and they say, okay, your article is supposed to be published in like 2 months, send us a draft in like a month and a half, my brain goes, it's tomorrow. And I don't know why, and just go, it's tomorrow, and that's it. And I can't shake it until I write it down in my calendar and then like set 5 reminders, like a week before, and then it's like working. And now I just found the solution. I printed out a giant calendar. Yeah. And then when I look at all the squares that are between me and the deadline, then it sort of helps me relax. So this is just, it's not really a question, it's like a comment, because this really helped me, and I'm going to try to sort of structure the tasks and the urgency that you recommended. But it was very comforting to hear that it's not only me, and that it's a lot of people who struggle with this, and that we are all surviving anyway. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I would just do a very small comment, because I'm very pleased that you are profiting from the presentation. But this is a very common confusion. We have always in our head urgency, urgency, urgency. I believe that's a consequence of the capitalism environment where we live. Time is money. That was raised in the Italians in the 17th century, more or less. And in that moment, that was important, because life is too short. So we have to live in a rush, because we suddenly go to die. Well, in our days, we live along. So we have to have another perspective. And it's very negative, especially to a researcher, focus more in urgency than in important things, What you are going to do, or what you are doing right now, is really very important. You are feeding industry, services, and all society activity, and not only professional lives, but also in healthcare, in the amusement, in the entertainment, in everything. So you are building the future. That is not an urgent task. You must reflect with your best capacities, okay? So let the urgent to the small things, okay, and live an important life and give an important use to your own brain and to your, well, I'm talking to you, but honestly, this is for all of us, okay. I have a lot of different skills, as my colleague, Professor João Pedro says, to teach and so on, but I love this one. Why? Because I need it also, you know. I profit from myself from this. Each 6 months, I feel need to review this stuff. Otherwise, the pressure of the society push me to dysfunctional situations, like yourself, thinking that everything is urgent. And this is a stress symptom, okay? You have to do a very good weekend, okay? A calm one. Thank you. So, that's it. Oh, one more. Yes, please. Oh, sorry?
Sorry. So I work in a lab, in a hospital, but I can also telework sometimes, one day more or less a week. And when I'm home, these 10 minutes, for me, I can do it very easy because I say, okay, I need to put the washing machine. So it's amazing because I'm not thinking at all at work. And when I come back, I really feel more fresh. But when I'm in the lab, I don't know what to do these small stops of work. So any suggestion for that?
Well, it's funny because sometimes we are home and we are thinking on work, and sometimes we are working and we are thinking on our personal lives. So we cannot manage fully, 100%, what our brain do. Secondly, yes, I understand that sometimes the working environment will be not the best conditions to have a 10 minutes break. But we can go out, perhaps. We can go to a small garden, we can go to the street, we can go take a coffee, we can talk to somebody, okay? But something that I have not stressed enough, because time management is, well, honestly, I need usually 3 days to treat sufficiently this team. But something that is really very important is the sleep. I told you previously something about it, but it's not only for our ideas and for the working of the memory. No, recently neurosciences has demonstrated that we must use sleep to recover our physical health and to give us a better psychological state, meaning with endorphins, dopamine, and so on. So if you want to feel better and to combat stress, too much stress, that is a good way. 10 minutes break, as I told you, perhaps you need to be creative. And sometimes when we have a problem, we can also talk to our colleagues. Let's find a way here. It's not very expensive to put something to amuse in the lab, I don't know, perhaps a ping-pong table or something. Okay, you have to be creative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to all, and thank you very much again to Professor João Pedro Pêgo and Professor Firmino. Sometimes when we are organizing all these events and plenary sessions for researchers and research skills, there's the idea floating that, well, it looks like being a PhD seems to be a medical condition. And then we need treatment constantly to give treatment and provide solutions for the students. But remember that in any case, if it is a medical condition, it has a cure. We have found that cure. Defend the thesis. So before that happens, let's go for a coffee break. At 11:15, we will be back in 2 different rooms. There are 2 parallel sessions. One is in this Salón de Grados, and the other one is in room 17. Then we will provide all the directions. And so now we can go for the coffee break, even if some people do not recommend coffee, but perhaps only after lunch. Now, yes.
Please, can you wait next to the main stair? We are going to take a group picture, so if you could wait there. and then we go to the coffee.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Thank you, Irene. We will go together to the main star to take a picture.